Live from the studio, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jimmy Selesky, and today we have a news story that just came across my desk this morning, courtesy of the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, where a new high-rise apartment building has just been erected right in the middle of downtown LA. This building will be used exclusively for low-income and, quote, unhoused housing. Now, the Weingart Tower, as it is known, is 19 stories of studio and one-bedroom apartments valued at around $600,000 a pop. So before we dive into why that matters, or at least why I think it matters, maybe why you should as well, let's take a look at what the local news has to say.
Big celebration for those working to help LA's unhoused population. It's taken 3 years, but the Weingart Tower is finished. The first residents could move in a matter of weeks. Fox 11's Susan Hirasuna joining us live from the 19th floor to give us a tour. Susan.
Yes, and Christine, let me just tell you, this is just one of the common areas for the residents. I want to give you a look at the view from the 19th floor, and let me tell you, this is a view that many people would pay good money for, but here, this building is specifically dedicated and fully dedicated to those who are low income or unhoused.
1, 2, cut.
Big name politicos posed for the ribbon cutting to celebrate the completion of Weingart Tower 1. 3 years of construction, and now the 19th floor high rise is oh so close to welcoming the first of 278 tenants.
I know voters say, I voted for Proposition H, I voted for HHH, and I haven't seen anything. Well, now you can see what HHH has done.
And what HHH has done is build an affordable apartment community. There are 47 one-bedroom apartments and 228 studio apartments, complete with linens, cookware, and dinnerware.
It's a blessing, a blessing.
Shannon Gresham and Amaya Baca are already greenlit to move into one of the studio apartments.
I started off homeless for 3 years. I didn't really think it was no other life than this right here. You know, when I was on the streets for 3 years, I didn't think that I'd make it this far.
Of course, I'm going to be cooking and doing decorating everything in there. You know, it's my own little house.
To qualify, prospective tenants will apply, agree to participate in programs determined by a case manager, and pay roughly 30% of their income, as is required for Section 8 housing.
Some of the people who are tenants here will have jobs, will already have jobs and happen to be homeless. Some are on disability or Social Security, where it's enough to kind of keep them surviving, but not enough to actually have an apartment.
It's the services on site that will encourage success for future residents that might need to relearn how to live housed.
The amenities that are here, I know, are going to be talked about in a way that is not so positive. A gym, music, art, recreation are all the things that are needed to heal, that are all a part of mental health.
The caseworker for that young couple we just introduced you to told me that they could move in before the end of the month. However, the CEO, Kevin Murray, he says, well, there's some things that still need to be signed off before there could be full occupancy here at Weingart Tower 1. And this is just the first one. Tower 2 is being built. Reporting live in downtown LA, I'm Susan Hirasuna, Fox 11 News.
Oh, good. I had no idea that this was going to be 2 towers. That was just one of 2, folks. Sorry about that. I vastly underestimated the heartwarmingness of this lovely story. Now, I'm interested to know how the average person thinks this pans out. You have units, one-bedroom studio apartments with skyline views, a gym, I guess a pool. You have plateware, silverware, furniture, all these amenities and necessities provided by the building in exchange for 30% of the residents' monthly income. And rest assured, according to that one guy in this video, some of these people will have jobs. That is comforting, that some of the hundreds of people in these 2 towers will actually have jobs. So that means that when we say 30% of their income, that for some of them, that won't still mean $0 a month. Lovely. I'm interested to know how way you think this is going to pan out. But more importantly, I'm interested to know how you think they think this is going to pan out. And when I say they, I mean the city and county of Los Angeles, the state of California, Gavin Newsom, the governor, Karen Bass, the mayor, Maxine Waters, a representative from that district who is at the ribbon cutting in this video we just saw. I'm interested to know what you think they think about this, because I find that to be the most pivotal aspect of this conversation. I think for the average person, we all understand that simply taking, quote, unhoused people, and we're going to get into the word unhoused itself, because there's a whole discussion to be had about that lingual masterpiece that is that word, because that word itself perfectly demonstrates the backwards, passive philosophy under which these people operate and how they think. So we'll get into that in a moment. But for now, the idea that you can simply take unhoused and also low-income people and put them in a situation where now they're actually living better than regular middle to even, I would say, higher income people. These are $600,000 units, guys, with furniture and amenities and plateware and this, like everything you would need and more in an apartment building. You got a gym. You have a beautiful skyline view. This is $600,000. Does the average person, are they able to afford a $600,000 unit in a high-rise apartment building in downtown Los Angeles? Is that feasible for the average person? A studio apartment in a high-rise in LA? I'm not opposed to housing the, quote, unhoused or low income, but we get to a state in this society, in this city, in particular, because LA is a perfect example of this. LA County, by most recent estimates, has about 80,000 homeless people within county lines. 80,000 homeless people. These two buildings, I don't know, call it whatever you want, really. It ain't 80,000. It ain't even close. It ain't even close. So the idealistic citizen looks at this situation and goes, okay, look, this obviously doesn't solve the whole problem, but it's a start. And we can work off of this to find new solutions as well. And of course, this is also assuming that we have even solved the problem for the people we have now housed. Because that's the real misconception. Regardless of the fact that it is clearly unfeasible to deal with the homelessness issue in Los Angeles by government subsidized luxury low-income housing. But also, it's not even a fix to the issue, even if you could pay for it. Again, this idea of unhoused, we used to call that homeless, which is still in and of itself kind of a passive word to just say, oh, you have a home. I am homeless. I lack a home. I lack a home. Okay. But then we changed the word to unhoused. And this is something we addressed in the lowering the resolution of thought video, the Newspeak video from a couple weeks ago, where we talked about the deliberate changing of language and how it is meant to actually change the way you think by changing the way you talk about it. And the term unhoused is such a glaring, perfect example of this process. Because when you think of unhoused, what that sounds like to you is that, okay, there are just people who are housed. You are housed. Like, I have a roof over. I wouldn't consider myself housed. I kind of live in a garage, basically. But, there is a roof over my head consistently every night. And I imagine for most people watching this video, you are also what could be considered as housed. And that's just, something about you. You are housed. Well, other people happen to not be housed. They are unhoused. And we don't really know why. We're not going to make any implications as to why that could be. It just so happens that some people are housed and some people are unhoused. And so when you look at it like that, then the solution becomes rather obvious. Okay, well, why don't we just take all the people that are unhoused and house them? And now all the unhoused people are housed. Excellent. Next problem, moving on. We've solved it. Not quite. Because this myopic, complete misunderstanding, refusal, and ignorance of the actual issue, the actual circumstances at hand, is what leads to more and more of these stupid decisions that are being made by hopefully stupid people. And I say hopefully stupid people because on the off chance that they aren't stupid, yet they continue to make these stupid decisions, that means it's actually an evil decision, not a stupid one. And so if you are a person who believes strongly that people are merely just a product of their circumstances, not that people's circumstances are more often than not a product of the people themselves, then the solution to this becomes quite simple, actually. Just change their circumstances. Now, forget the fact that you actually have not solved the problem at all. In fact, you arguably have made it worse because you've taken a person from a shitty set of circumstances and placed them into a new situation where they will quickly find themselves under a new set of shitty circumstances. And this is the case for the vast majority of people in this situation, if we're going to be honest. Now, I didn't start this show to make it a roast of homeless people, but this is a conversation that needs to be had. And unfortunately, it's a conversation that's not being had by people like Gavin Newsom in the state of California and the mayors of these cities like Karen Bass, representatives like Maxine Waters, and even the people in these cities that continue to vote for these politicians and therefore these policies that continue to make not just the city as a whole worse, but they continue to make the problems they're trying to solve worse. And it's this refusal to acknowledge reality. And the reality is that when you walk past the average homeless person on the street, let's say, do you ever have the thought, be honest with yourself. You don't have to say it out loud, but be honest with yourself. Do you ever have that thought when you see a homeless guy laying on a bench with a pile of trash to his side, and then he gets up and walks away and the pile of trash stays there, and you think, what does being homeless have to do with throwing your trash all over the ground and keeping your living space or wherever it is that you live, your tent or whatever it may be? What does not having a home have to do with keeping what you do have shitty and constantly polluting and throwing trash and making everywhere you go worse? What do those two things, how much money does it cost to throw your trash in the fucking trash can that is inevitably right on the street corner that you're sitting by? How much money does that cost? I wonder. Last I checked, it costs $0. But yet even the fact that throwing your trash, and this is one example, but it's a great example, because even the fact that throwing your trash away and keeping at least what you do have presentable and clean, doing the best with what you do have, even the fact that that costs $0 still does not change the fact that in any given situation, they're going to do anything how they do everything. And look, I'm not saying this goes for all homeless people. I am saying it goes for most homeless people. This 1930s cartoon homeless guy that everybody likes to envision, just a guy with 5 o'clock shadow walking down the street, whistling with a stick and a bag, just down on my luck. No, that's not what you're dealing with when you go to these cities, okay? That's not what you're dealing with. There are obviously people who are mentally ill, who are so far down the hole of drug addiction that there's really nothing they can do for themselves. That exists. There's also a lot of people that can do something for themselves and don't. And just don't. And you know what? Hey, if that's how you want to live your life, that's great. As long as it doesn't interfere with my life, and as long as I'm not paying, as a resident of Los Angeles that actually does work for a living, as long as I'm not paying exorbitant taxes and exorbitant real estate prices to subsidize your free existence in an apartment that's better than mine, with a view that's better than mine. On what planet does that make sense? On what planet can people actually sit there and say, yeah, I think this is a good idea? And so this idea that you're going to take that guy from off the bench with a pile of trash sitting around him and move him into a nice luxury apartment with a skyline view of Los Angeles and nice, clean, trendy mugs and plates and furniture and carpeting and everything, and you're going to walk in there next week and he's going to have that place dusted and vacuumed and dishes washed. You were living in squalor before on the streets, but surely you won't be living in squalor in your brand new luxury high-rise apartment. You may have been unreliable and unable to keep a job or make payments on your debts before when you were living on the streets, but surely you will be a reliable person able to keep a job and effectively make your payments on time in your new luxury high-rise apartment. You may have had a drug addiction or a mental illness that made you literally unable to coexist functionally in society. But surely you will be able to function and exist quite well in your brand new luxury high-rise apartment. Not only will the buildings themselves be only temporarily a desirable and viable, healthy place to live, but even for the people involved, for the majority of them, this is something that they will only very temporarily benefit from. In my neighborhood where I grew up, we had a couple Section 8 houses. I just moved out of an apartment building where there was plenty of Section 8, and they were getting evicted all the time for not paying rent, of all things. You know, like it says here, 30% of their monthly income. So you literally just have to pay 30% of whatever you make, whatever that is in a month. That's what you have to contribute towards rent, and the government subsidizes the rest, pays for it. And people still just don't even do that. And then, but various things. It could be anything. All kinds of reasons why people got evicted. Happened all the time. And so acknowledging that, okay, so probably what's going to happen is even the very small percentage of the low income and unhoused population of LA County that benefits from this project in any way, shape, or form, the very small percentage of people that will do so will only do so very temporarily. Very temporarily. There are a small minority of people that very well may take full advantage of this situation to prop themselves up, get a steady job, elevate themselves out of financial dependence, and become a functioning, financially independent member of society. There's a very, very small percentage of people that may have that happen. But for the vast majority of the people that move into this building, they will be out soon enough. They will fail to pay rent. They will fail to participate in the work courses or the checkups or whatever other things are required, whatever completely ridiculously easy, nonsensical bare minimums they have to meet to maintain residency in this $600,000 high-rise apartment, they will not achieve. They will fail to comply. And so then you have to ask the question, okay, so if even the people this is supposed to benefit barely benefit from this, again, only a small percentage of the homeless in LA will actually get a chance to take advantage of this opportunity, and the vast majority of them will not be able to actually take advantage of it in any meaningful way, and they will only do so very temporarily and be right back where they started. So, okay, assuming that that's the extent of how they benefit, which is barely at all, and clearly the taxpayers and average citizens of Los Angeles that are working for a living and, you know, maybe renting or own a house or property or own a business and are paying taxes and whatever on that and trying to compete with the rising wages and cost of living and everything, clearly they don't benefit from having to fund yet another bottomless pit of taxpayer funded bullshit that doesn't help. They're paying for people to live in a better place than they are able to live in. So I don't see how they benefit at all. So who does benefit? Well, let's see. Well, who built the building? I feel like whoever built the building and is collecting rent, they're probably making a killing, right? These are $600,000 units. I mean, wow, how much rent is that every month? And also, who comes up with that number? I'm imagining that number is based on the location of the building, the type of building it is, and saying, okay, like other comparable buildings in this area, you know, high-rise apartment buildings in downtown Los Angeles with this level of amenities and everything else are valued at about $600,000 a pop. So that is the value of the units in this building. I'm imagining that's how they assess it because, again, this is for low-income government subsidized housing. This is not subject to the market competition of how value is assessed and priced. So these units aren't being priced at $600,000 a pop by the free and fair market. There's not a bunch of people that are saying, oh shit, dude, I want to move into this new Weingart building and get myself a studio apartment in that homeless person building over there. And yeah, I think $600,000 is a great price for that. No, nobody is saying that. Nobody is actually willing to pay $600,000 for a unit in this building. Assuming that everyone else in it is going to be homeless, but happen to have a home. They're going to be housed homeless people. So that price from the jump is just arbitrary. But you can bet your ass that that's how they rate the rent for it. You can bet your ass that whatever the amount that company charges for rent every month, of which they don't give a fuck what percentage of that is paid for by the homeless person or the low-income person. If it was up to them, they'd probably prefer that none of it was paid for by them because they're unreliable. I'm not sure I'm going to get it from them, but I know the government is going to get me my check every month. So fuck it. Okay, dude. Okay, fine. I'll get my $150 a month from you. Until I evict you 3 months from now. But in the meantime, how much am I charging the city of Los Angeles and the state of California for every $600,000 unit in this building per month of rent? How much am I charging them? How much am I charging the taxpayers who are barely able to make their own rent payments in much shittier buildings elsewhere in the city and state? How much am I taking out of their tax money to put in my pocket for my $600,000 apartment unit building? They're making a killing. So you got the Weingart Center, that, found nonprofit agency. So much nonprofit going on here, guys. I mean, this is just, where's the profit? I can't even find can somebody find me the profit? Because apparently everyone involved in this is nonprofit. So the Weingart Center, who provides interim and permanent supportive housing, and wraparound services to people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles. That's a good way of putting it. I'm experiencing homelessness. I'm not broke. I'm experiencing being broke. I actually do view myself that way right now. I'm not broke. I'm just experiencing it. The feeling of being broke. So the Weingart Center, they're not making any profit apparently. But they are partners with, who's this? Oh, wow. Yet another non-profit. What are the odds of this? The Chelsea Investment Corporation. The heart and soul of Chelsea Investment Corporation is more than building affordable housing communities. It's about changing lives. $3 billion invested, 15,000 affordable homes built, 40,000 lives changed. How are we counting 40,000 lives changed, by the way? What do you mean by changed? You mean 40,000 people lived in one of your cash cow low-income housing properties for a month or more? 40,000 lives changed. So you got the Weingart Center, who's building this building, and they're partnered with the Chelsea Investment Corporation. And both of these companies are nonprofits who just out of the goodness of their heart built this building, and out of the kindness of their heart are collecting a multiple $1,000 rent check straight from the city of Los Angeles and the state of California, and in very small percentage from whatever random poor person or homeless person happens to be occupying that $600,000 unit on any given month. And they're changing lives here in the meantime, guys. They're doing this for you. No, out of the kindness of their heart, they are going to go to the business owner and worker and taxpayer in Los Angeles and California and say, hey, thank you so much for continuing to pay your rent at your shitty apartment building or your dumb house in that stupid neighborhood over there. And thank you so much. But we're going to need a larger percentage of that paycheck, actually, because, these apartments are worth $600,000 and somebody's got to pay this rent for these people, because it's certainly not going to be them. But I mean, we need this rent. That's how much these apartments are worth. And so this is all nonprofit type of activities, guys. And so they're doing this for the homeless. They're doing this for the low income. If they happen to be making billions of dollars in the process by leeching off of the homelessness crisis and poverty epidemic in these major cities, then so be it. But that's just a price that they have to pay. That's just a profit that they apparently have to not make by instituting these luxury high-rise apartment buildings that are government subsidized for the homeless. And I'm sure the politicians that are receiving donations from the various financial entities that are invested in these corporations, I'm sure the politicians get some kickbacks by continuing to approve these contracts to the construction companies and developers, and that continue to get them voted back into office, where they can continue to institute more of these policies that just take money directly out of the hands of the people of Los Angeles that are actually trying to exist as functioning members of society and work for a living and own and rent and invest in the city and run a business, and just suck money right out of them and move it temporarily through the hands of the people that need it most, the homeless and low income, before it ultimately goes directly to the people who need it the least, which are the people at the very top echelon of society that are perpetuating this endless cycle of poverty that they profit from. And therein you have the cycle. And that is indeed the cycle, folks. This is not by accident. This is by design. It's not a coincidence when you look across the country at virtually every major city, you see this same phenomenon playing out. You see the cities that proclaim to care the most about homelessness having the biggest homelessness problems. And that is because where you would like to believe that there is an entire industry built upon the goal of ending homelessness. There is actually an entire industry built upon homelessness itself. This goes for virtually every single thing you can point to in American society. When you look at the pharmaceutical industry, this is why when you walk into a doctor's office, and you tell them that you're depressed or anxious, they don't tell you to go to the gym. They don't tell you to fix up your diet or live a healthier lifestyle in general, or take a look at your job and your relationships and see what are the root causes of these feelings of depression and anxiety that you're experiencing. They don't tell you that at all. Why? Because the pharmaceutical healthcare industry does not make any money if you walk out of that doctor's office with a new game plan on how to approach life. And that is actually taboo to even suggest that it's anything other than a chemical imbalance that is irreparable other than through some pharmaceutical. And that is also by design. We fight back against it when someone says it. And the pharmaceutical industry wants it that way. They keep it that way. If you think the pharmaceutical industry is currently working on a pill that you can take once that will cure your depression and anxiety, I got bad news for you. It might even make you a little depressed, and dare I say anxious, when you come to find out that they are not working on that pill. And they never are. That is an antithetical goal to a business to try to eliminate their client base. Why would you cure a disease when you could instead prescribe a medication that someone is to take every day for the rest of their lives and have it paid through their insurance for a price that is way more than it needs to be? Likewise, the homeless industry, the homelessness, low-income housing and the food shelters and soup kitchens and the free needle clinics and all these other industries that are entirely built around homelessness and the drug epidemic in your cities, they are not looking for a cure. They are not looking for a cure. Why would they look for a cure? We've noted before on this show that it is easier to destroy than to build. And when you have a system that allows for people to profit off of the destruction of our institutions and our society as a whole, then you have created an obvious opening for bad actors to do so. Because if you're someone whose sole focus is profit, and you also recognize, well, what's a more lucrative endeavor? To try to profit off of the ending of homelessness, the ending of the drug epidemic, the curing of anxiety, depression, cancer, heart disease, whatever? Or is it easier to be the guy who simply profits off of the fact that this does exist? Wherever you want to look, I do believe the majority of people are what we call useful idiots. That includes the mayors of these cities, like Karen Bass in Los Angeles. That includes the representatives. That includes all the volunteers and salaried position people at these nonprofits. I believe that the vast majority of them truly do think that they are helping to fight homelessness, that they're doing something good for the homeless community. Somebody comes up to them, hey man, we're going to build this low-income housing. Oh, great, low-income housing. We got a bunch of homeless people. Now we're going to build housing for the homeless. Okay, cool, this sounds awesome. They're not thinking about how this is obviously a scam. They don't care. This company's donating to them. They're going to all these nice fundraising events and cocktail parties, and the news is treating them great and, fluffing them up in the media. Oh, look what they're doing out in Los Angeles. Karen Bass leading the front against homelessness. And they feel like they're really doing something, and that's by design too. People like Brandon Scott in my home city of Baltimore, I think he's a genuinely good-hearted person. I don't hold any malice or contempt or anything like that towards him. I genuinely don't. I think he's a good guy. And I actually kind of feel bad for him when people harp on him too hard. I don't think he's a malicious person. I don't even think he's a corrupt person. I think he's an incompetent person. And that's why he's the mayor. That's why Karen Bass is the mayor of Los Angeles. That's why pretty much every mayor of every city is the mayor of that city, because they're incompetent. You wouldn't be a mayor installed by the political monopoly party in your city if you were actually competent. If you actually had the wherewithal to look at what's going on around you and go, hold on. We're building luxury high-rise apartment buildings for the homeless and paying you guys monthly rent, and this is going to end, this is going to help fight homelessness? What? No, we're not doing that. No, clearly we're not doing. They don't want that mayor. They don't want that person in a seat of power. So the real people that are pulling the strings that are making money in these cities all across the country are donating to the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party, who again has a complete political monopoly over virtually every single city we've mentioned today, complete political monopoly, can basically undergo what this really is, which is a intra-company promotional process. Because that's what it is when you're in a city like Los Angeles or Baltimore, for instance, where it's 9-1 Democrat. Your councilman positions, your Department of Education positions, your mayoral positions, you're not competing against the Republicans or any other party. You don't have any external competition. The only competition in your city is within your own party. So the party gets to dictate what happens to the city without question, without contest. The Democratic Party has its way with Los Angeles. The Democratic Party has its way with Baltimore. And if you want to be the mayor in Baltimore, you're going to have to run as a Democrat. And if you want to run as a Democrat in Baltimore, you better fucking play the game. Unless you're somebody, that has the resources to do it independently or hijack the party like Trump did with the Republicans in 2016. That's really the only way. Other than that, everyone you see that they're pushing, everyone that you see on the ballot in these cities, you can guarantee from the jump that they ain't changing shit. That's why they're there. But the people that are actually orchestrating these deals, do you think they don't realize how much of a scam it is? That they're getting the government of the state government of California and the city government of Los Angeles to pay them an overpriced rental fee per month for a luxury homeless shelter. Do you think that they don't realize that's a scam? Do you think that they actually believe that this is, quote, changing lives when somebody moves in off the street into their building and then is immediately evicted 3 months later for not paying rent or not showing up to a checkup or whatever else? Do you think that they believe that changed someone's life? No, they don't. It's their business. It is their industry. Folks, my name is Jimmy Selesky. Till next time. This is live from the studio. Leave us a like. Hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. New content on this channel every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Peace.